So let's move right into the legislative session. I'm going to invite Norman to come up. And Norman and I are going to spend some time up here tonight with all of you. And we're actually being videotaped. And this or tomorrow's will go on our website. And so people that are not at our reception here tonight or tomorrow, our luncheon tomorrow, and by the way, over 100 of your friends will grace the room here tomorrow. But we're trying, you are a first time tonight. This is the first evening reception we've had an opportunity to put on. And I'm so grateful to our advisory council because they came up with this brainchild of let's offer an evening session. So I hope you enjoy your time tonight, that you've enjoyed the refreshments, and we'll move along here because our goal is to have you out of here by midnight. And I think we can accomplish that this evening. But before we go any further, as we talk about the legislative session, and Norman, I'm going to speak for Norman too, we are so honored to come alongside and to work with the 105 legislators at the Capitol. Democrats, Republicans, we work alongside them. We don't yell, but we try to reason and try to be men of integrity in what we say and discerning in what we say. But we appreciate their heart and their spirit. And tomorrow we have a plethora of legislators that will be in the House. And tonight we have two, and I'd like to recognize them. I'd like to recognize Jacqueline Sly. Jacqueline, will you stand? Let's thank Jacqueline for coming tonight. And Jacqueline, I want to say 33, District 33. Right. Yay! Jacqueline is representative in District 33. And I believe Jacqueline will be running for the Senate in District 33 because Jacqueline is termed out in the House after serving 8 years in the House and now will be running as a candidate for the Senate in District 33. And we also have with us Senator Bruce Rappaport. Bruce, would you stand and let us acknowledge you? And Bruce, am I right that you're District 30? Yes. Okay, District 30. And Bruce is running for the Senate again in District 30? Yes. Okay, and Bruce also serves on the advisory council of the Family Heritage Alliance. And so we welcome Representative Sly and Senator Rappaport. And I didn't miss anyone, did I, tonight? Okay, we welcome you. So, folks, if you'll turn it on the inside, we want to draw your attention. First of all, you'll see on the inside that there were 28 bills that the Family Heritage Alliance and/or resolutions that we supported by the FHA action during the legislative session. Of these bills, you can see 17 of those bills were passed, 11 of these bills failed, and 4 of the 11 that failed made it through at least one chamber. So our action step is simply this, to say thank you, Lord, for those legislators who voted with us on these issues and in supporting these bills. We want you to know that there is a way for you to see how legislators voted. We can't put all that information in a brochure, but you can simply go online at www.legis.sd.gov and follow the easy steps there, and you can see how a legislator voted on a certain bill. So that's an easy 1, 2, 3, 4 step, and you're there. I want you to know that the bills that we support and we oppose, Norman and I, we simply go to Pier every week and spend our 4.5 days there each week at the pleasure of our board of directors. So every week our board of directors would meet on Friday evening for 1, 2, 3 hours, and they would look at the bills that are coming up and/or resolutions, and then they will give Norman and I our marching orders. So these bills that we're supporting or we're opposing come with the 100 unanimous consent of our board of directors. So if one board member has a check in their spirit about a bill that we're looking to support, then we simply put that bill on the back burner or off to the side and look at it again later. But I want you to know that the 28 bills and or resolutions that are listed here, folks, the board of the Family Heritage Alliance unanimously consent that Norman and I go to the Capitol and work them. So we did the best we could. And we're also grateful to our website. Many of you spent time on FHAaction.org. And I want, John, will you stand? Will you welcome John Dennis, our communications director? John was very instrumental in keeping that up and helping us with that as well as we move ahead. So we're going to take a look at, first of all, the 3 resolutions here. And folks, you have before you, first of all, I'm going to take House Concurrent Resolution 1014. Now you can see that it passed pretty good, 67-0 in the House and 23-12 in the Senate. And folks, it simply is a concurrent resolution calling for the United States to save Christian, Yazidis, thank you, that's correct, Norman. Yazidis and people of other faiths from persecution and genocide. And isn't it interesting that this resolution simply said, what's happening, what ISIS is doing, it is genocide. It's just not a political happening, but it's genocide. Let's call it what it is. And we have a president so far that has not been willing to do so, but our South Dakota State Legislature said this is what it is. And isn't it interesting that just yesterday, the House of Representatives, U.S. House of Representatives, passed House Concurrent Resolution 75. Jeff Fortenberry is a Nebraska U.S. House Representative, was one of the co-sponsors. The other co-sponsors was a lady a Democrat from California. But Jeff made this statement: when ISIS systematically targets Christians, Yazidis, and other ethnic and religious minorities for extermination, this is not just a grave injustice, it is a threat to civilization itself. We must call the violence by its proper name, genocide. And so I went and I watched the discussion on the floor of the House as they prepared to vote on this. And folks, when the vote came down, it was unanimous. 393-0. They voted to call it what it is. So I'm grateful that our House of Representatives and that our Senate both concurred and sent that message to D.C. as well. And then we come to the second area, the support of Israel resolution. Oh yeah, well, this is a concurrent resolution that simply adds support to Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody here knows that Israel has been getting the short end of the stick lately, politically speaking, from our government. And what the representatives did in the House, 60-3, and in the Senate, 34-0, was admirable in simply saying, we, South Dakota legislature, stands with Israel. We come to concurrent resolution 1, a supportive caregivers resolution. Okay, the caregivers resolution was a simple resolution, a concurrent resolution to show support for family caregivers. So it was a simple concurrent resolution, simply saying there's a lot of families out there that are giving care to their elderly parents, to their handicapped children, and this resolution says we recognize them and we support them in their endeavors. So pretty simple resolution, but one that was meaningful nonetheless. We are very grateful for every Wednesday morning. We have what's called the Catacomb Caucus from 7 to 7:30. It was a half hour of just Christian encouragement. It was a time of music, and Jacqueline Sly led us in music every Wednesday morning, and then a devotional time led by one of the legislators, and then a time of prayer and fellowship. And how grateful we are that this year the crowds every single Wednesday morning, from the very first one to the last one of the session, the room was full, and people were standing. So 40 plus every Wednesday morning, and we're grateful for the folks that came out on both sides of the aisle, as well as Capitol staff and visitors to the Capitol that day. So we're grateful for the Catacomb Caucus, and we believe that it will only but continue. Now we turn our attention to the next page, a homeschool bill, 1013.
So 1013 was really pretty simple. It was brought by the Department of Education, actually. And what it says is it takes out the requirement for second grade state testing for homeschool students. Homeschool students are required to take the state tests every so often, and second grade was the first year that they were required to. And the Department of Education was looking through it, and they just decided that that isn't really necessary. Public school students aren't required to take that test at second grade, and they said the quality of tests that you're testing a second grader is probably not a good enough read, and so they said it's not necessarily something that we have to be requiring, and so they just kind of loosened that a little bit, took off second grade, and so now I believe fourth grade is the first year that homeschool students will be required to take the state test.
Thank you, Norman. And the next bill, 1110. 1110 was a prenatal care for citizens here in our country, in our state. Folks, this bill has been brought 4 different times to the floor of the House and floor of the Senate. And it has been defeated the last 3 years. For 3 years, the Family Heritage Alliance has taken a neutral position. We did not this year. This year we supported this bill, and here's the reason. In the past, this bill was very clear that prenatal care would be given to non-citizens, illegal aliens that were not even here legally, that were not carrying a green card. They were simply in the state, and so they were given state aid for prenatal care. We felt we had to remain neutral because we did not want to cross that line when it came to illegal citizens in the state of South Dakota. We didn't oppose it, we simply remained neutral on it. And for 3 years, it went down to defeat. This year, this bill was different. This bill was tightened this year, and so this prenatal care went to non-citizens, primarily those that were in the state. They had a green card, they're here legally. Not to say that an illegal could not slip through the cracks some way, shape, or form. Sure, but predominantly this would be for non-citizens, but who are here legally. We simply came down on the side of the infant, the side of the baby, to say every baby deserves a healthy start, a healthy beginning. So we supported this bill, and so did the House, and so did the Senate, and the governor's signature is pending on that.
Yeah, next we go to 1123, which is an abortion clinic inspection bill. And what this basically says is right now every abortion clinic is inspected on a periodic basis. Just like any other clinics, things like that, they're inspected. Right now it's really hard, if not almost impossible, to find those results. So this bill, it was really simple. All it says is when an abortion clinic is inspected, those inspection results need to be on the Department of Health's website. They need to be open to the public. Right now, there's only one Planned Parenthood in South Dakota, so now whenever they're inspected, that information will have to be put on the website. Pretty simple bill, basically is making sure that people can get to the results of those inspections.
And that's really important. This year, it was amazing because there were 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pro-life bills brought to the House and to the Senate. Folks, normally we'll have 1, maybe 2, but 5. South Dakota had the distinction of being the #1 most pro-life state in the country. We're not there anymore. Do you know why? Because the last couple of years, we simply haven't had the tweaks to our pro-life bills, our pro-life statutes like we have had in the past. So once you know, we were edged out by the state of Louisiana and North Dakota. And I have a feeling after these 5 bills are signed into law, and 2 of them are hanging out there, not been signed into law yet, but when these 5 pro-life bills are signed into law, I have a strong feeling South Dakota is once again going to be #1, the most pro-life state in the United States of America. And this was one to start. And so let's talk about these 3. And here's another pro-life bill, 1157, a chemical abortion-informed consent. Folks, follow with me. It simply says an act to require the inspection results of, an act to require that the mother be given information about the reversal procedures after taking the first step in a chemical abortion. This was a common sense bill. It simply says that the abortionist, that the abortion clinic must let a mother know if a mother's going to abort their baby by the use of a chemical abortion. after the first pill to prepare for the chemical abortion is given, the abortion clinic must let that mother know that there is another pill that she can take after she has taken the first, before she comes back and takes the second. There is another pill that she can take to reverse. If she changes her mind, she can reverse the procedure and have a high possibility of having a normal, healthy child. And so this is a transparency bill, simply saying, doctors and an abortuary, you give full information to your clients so the mothers know. Doesn't that just sound right? And we shouldn't even have a statute about this, but we do have to. And so we're grateful that it's on the way to the governor for his signature.
And then next we have HB 1212. And this one was a little bit of a tweak. What it did is it tightened up our abortion statutes a little bit, just tweaked it, made it a little more in line with federal language. And the big reason for bringing it was for the lawsuits that are in the 8th Circuit Court right now. Tweaking it to be a little bit more mirrored of federal statutes will increase our chances in the 8th Circuit Court. And so that's one of the big reasons for this tweak. It wasn't a real substantial change, just adding a licensed here or licensed provider there. But it increased our chances in the 8th Circuit Court and cleaned up our language a little bit to more match federal statutes.
And HB 1212, how grateful we are to Representative Roger Hunt of Sioux Falls. He's considered in our realm as Mr. Pro-Life. And he brought this bill on behalf of what Norman just shared right now. So we're grateful that HB 1212 is on the way to the governor's signature. Let's look at SB 24. SB 24, the sale of fetal body parts. Folks, anybody know where this bill may have come from, or the impetus of this bill? Yeah, it's called Planned Parenthood. And the videos that we've been watching all summer long of the sale of fetal body parts. This bill was sponsored and brought by our own Attorney General, Marty Jackley. He wanted to carry this bill, and he did, and unanimous in the House, unanimous in the Senate, of course. Wouldn't you hate to be the lone senator or representative to vote against this bill? And so they all know what's going on. They've been watching the news, and they know that it is wrong. And so what this bill simply says is that it adds teeth to the already statute in South Dakota that a fetal body part should not be sold. So this bill added teeth to it. And so we're grateful that Marty Jackley brought this bill. During the legislative session this year, we held, as we do every year, an event called the South Dakota Ministry Leaders Capital Summit. And so this year, on Monday, February the 22nd, we invited pastors and ministry leaders from across the state to come to appear for the day. And last year, 110 pastors and ministry leaders came to the Capitol. 5 years ago, when we had our first event, one pastor showed up. And we're so glad he saved the day for us. And Wes LeBray will forever be my hero. And but the last year, 110. This year, folks, 120 pastors and ministry leaders came to the Capitol for the day. And when they show up, it just makes a difference. A number of them have never been to the people's house, their house. And they walk into the Capitol, and it really is kind of breathtaking. Hey, it takes my breath away every year that I go to the Capitol. Now, that could be because it's 35 below zero in here. But I think it's the beauty of the Capitol that I just really appreciate. So 120 showed up. We spent time with them in the rotunda with a continental breakfast. And then down the hall, we meet, we talk about bills, and we introduce them to the other pro-life lobbyists there from Concerned Women for America, the Catholic Diocese, and Right to Life, to name a few. But then we also spend some time on the steps of the Capitol with here, the Lieutenant Governor. The governor was out of state attending a governor's convention in Texas, but his chief of staff, Tony Van Heusen, stepped up to the plate, and of course constitutional office holders are standing there, and after having their photo taken, probably the highlight of the day for many of the pastors is to stand there and to sing "My Country 'Tis of Thee" and "America the Beautiful," and that prayer that we know so well, "God bless America," as it just resonates. And you know, you put 120 pastors on the step, they hold nothing back. And boy, did it sound good. It's a choir I'd like to take on the road, really. Then we go over to a church nearby at the Community Bible Church for a big luncheon over there. And a host of legislators and Capitol personnel follow us over there and join us for lunch. In fact, this year 30 legislators came over, joined us for lunch, and so they got to get up front and grab the microphone, introduce themselves, and then we got to gift them as well as they left that day. But they didn't leave without this man. And by the way, you know that lone pastor I was talking about? That's him. Wes LeBrier from Union Center, South Dakota. You know where that's at? Way up north. And so Wes led in prayers. We prayed over the legislators present and those that could not be there as well for the day. And then we heard from a plethora of speakers, all the way from the Billy Graham Association, East Coast, to our keynote speaker in the middle there, as he flew in from Wall Builders, the Black Robe Regiment. This is Mark Gonzalez. And he challenged the pastors, the ministry leaders, to step it up when it comes to their involvement in this area that God's involved in, called government, and appreciated his heart. But now we'll go on. We'll look at our next bill, and that's 26, and that's the sex offender bill.
So what SB 26 did, again, this one was just a couple of tweaks. The first one is that a sex offender would have to report intent of foreign travel. Basically, if they're going to travel abroad, they have to let their authorities know. And it also tightens the requirements of the different reporting they have to do if they move residence. And so both of those are just to tighten down a little bit our already successful compliance. Right now we have a 93% compliance rate, I believe, with all of our sex offenders on the list. And so this just tightens that down a little further, puts a couple more tweaks in there to keep basically a short leash and a tight watch on these people.
SB 54 was the elder abuse bill, and this came out of a summer study from last summer that was funded through the legislature. And in fact, Bruce Rappelberg, Senator Rappelberg, you served on that summer study. This is the brainchild, really, of our Supreme Court justices, and then Senator David Norstrup from Aberdeen kind of led the spear on this. But the elder abuse simply puts into statute some real protections for those who are elderly in the state of South Dakota. And because I'm a little older, I was all for this bill. And so we're grateful that it got passed with, as you can see, a pretty good support in the House and the Senate. Then the pro-life pain-capable bill, SB 72. Folks, out of the 5 pro-life bills that were passed, this was the toughest one to get passed. You can see in the Senate it was 21-14. You need 18 to pass it in the Senate, so we got 3 more than we needed. In the House, 59-7, so strong support in the House. But this was the toughest one because this simply says this: scientifically speaking, a child in the womb of a mother can begin to feel pain at 20 weeks after gestation. At 20 weeks. So it's called the 20-week pain-capable ban. They tried to run this on the national level just a few months ago, and they passed it with huge success in the U.S. House of Representatives. It got over to the Senate, and because they needed to hit the 60-vote threshold, it died. It died because it only hit 56 votes in the Senate. But we did it on a state level. We became the 13th state in the nation to pass a child pain-capable bill. And so today, Citizen Link, our associate in Colorado Springs, along with Focus on the Family, gave a phone call to me and said, Dale, we want to write an article on what South Dakota legislators did. So I tip my hat to Representative Sly and to Senator Rappelberg and all of our good senators and representatives for passing SB 72. And just a few days ago, our governor signed it into law. And so I'm thankful for Governor Dugard and his support. And so then we go to SB 97, Petty Offense Conviction Bill.
So what SB 97 does is it takes Class 2 misdemeanors. Class 2 would be things like getting caught with marijuana or something like that. We're not talking about real serious crimes here. And what it would do is after 10 years, this petty offense would fall off your record. The police officers can still find it. So it's still on your permanent record. But what it does is if you goof up, it's not drastic, it's not huge, but you goofed up. You don't have to, for the rest of your life, put on that job application, I've been convicted of a crime. After 10 years, you would legally and ethically be allowed to say no. Now, if a police officer wants to know what's actually really going on, they want to know your full record, they would still have access to it. So it doesn't completely disappear, but it disappears off the record you're supposed to talk about. So after 10 years, it gives you a little bit more of an ability to start over, a little better chance at getting a job, and so you can ethically and honestly say, no, I haven't been convicted of a crime with these petty offenses after 10 years.
That would also come into play if you're looking to rent an apartment and you have to put on the form whether you're convicted of a crime, not any longer. And so we felt that this was a good bill, and so we supported this justice bill.
Okay, and then what 129 does is the suicide prevention training bill. And so what this does is ever so often teachers have to be recertified. They have to go through certain courses, certain classes to be recertified as a teacher. And right now, suicide prevention is one of the electives. And what this does is it moves suicide prevention from an elective to a required. And it wouldn't raise state costs because the courses are free because of the Jason Flatt Foundation and others. And so it's not going to be any state costs. It's not any additional hours of burden on the teacher because they already have to hit a certain amount of training hours. All it does is move it from an elective to a required. And the reason is, it's a really important issue. I mean, I don't think anybody would argue with you that the fact that preventing suicide is one of the biggest issues we've got. And so if it's not going to cost the state anything extra, and it's not going to be an undue hardship on the teachers, it really makes sense that all of our teachers during their recertification be given at least an hour of suicide prevention training. So that's what 129 does.
Leading the charge on 129 as well is an organization called Keystone Treatment Center out of Canton, South Dakota, one of the most highly respected treatment program centers in the state of South Dakota. So they were all over this bill and encouraging this bill, so we're grateful for it. And then we come to this bill, SB 159, is the private school bill, or a school choice bill. Folks, this bill is sitting on the governor's desk right now, and we hope that the governor will sign this bill. As you can see, 24 to 11. 24, by the way, folks, is a magical number in the Senate, in that it is a veto-proof a number. You have to reach 24 to have 2/3 to override a veto. And in the House, it was 45 to 23. 45 is short 2 votes. But when the vote was taken on the House floor, the 45 votes, we had 2 of our yes votes were gone for the day. So we would have had 47. So we just make the threshold of a veto-proof House and a veto-proof Senate. Now, folks, this bill, the Family Heritage Alliance, this bill was tried last year, and we supported it, and it failed last year. And so over the summer, there's a group of 21 of us, and 21 of us represent 16 different organizations in the state of South Dakota who are stakeholders in this bill. So we've been meeting periodically in Sioux Falls and by conference phone call. In fact, this Thursday after our luncheon, Ed and Norman and I will actually go to a meeting of the stakeholders on SB 159. SB 159 simply gives parents low income, and it's low income parents, the ability to be scholarshiped or to apply for a scholarship to be able to send their children to a non-public school for their education program. So this is a good bill. In fact, if you go to our website, fhaaction.org, and you click on the legislative radar, scroll down to 159, SB 159, and you can hit on the action button, to simply encourage the governor, sign this bill into law. I want you to know that it will be the first time in the history of our state that a scholarship program such as this has come out of Pierre to support our non-public school low-income parents and children, to give them the opportunity for an education that their parents would so choose. I shared in committee in both the House and the Senate that my two daughters, had a wonderful public school education, plus private school education, plus homeschool. So my wife and I, we experienced all three. All three were great for our family. This simply says private school may be a choice for some parents of low-income children. We ought to give it to them. So 159, if you'd like to let the governor know how you feel, you can do so. Just outside of Pierre, as many of you know, is on the river, and Norman one day took this photo of the bridge over Pierre. And I like this photo a lot. You know why? Because what Norman and I do at the Capitol is what the FHA does year-round, and that's to build bridges of relationship with those that agree with us and those that don't agree with us, without ever yelling, but always trying to be reasonable and discerning in how we project ourselves and project the ministry and the vision of the Family Heritage Alliance. Let's go on to look at a few of the bills, and this gets back to bridge building. Sometimes we don't make it across the bridge, and sometimes a bill will fail. And this is the big elephant in the middle of the room. Many of you have been following HB 1008. So let's talk about the Student Physical Privacy Act. As you look at the numbers on this bill, let me see if I can find it here. Oh, that's on the very back page. On the very back page, there you go. Yep. It says bills that were supported but failed. SB 180 or 1008 was simply, it's really this, folks. It's that South Dakota legislature, we passed a bill to protect the bathroom privacy of all students. And the emphasis is in the all. Not just bathrooms, but showers and locker rooms of 100% of our students in elementary and secondary public school education. So it's very, very narrow in its scope. Folks, the bill was less than 3 paragraphs long. It's a short bill. It was a very appropriate bill. The bill simply said that if you were born chromosomally and a boy, then in public school you will use the boy's bathroom, shower, and locker room. If you were born a girl chromosomally, biologically, then you will use the girl's bathroom, shower, and locker room in your public school education years, K through 12. Now, if there was a student that was gender conflicted, and then the school would make reasonable accommodations for that student, which means maybe a nurse's restroom and shower, or maybe a faculty bathroom, or maybe a unisex bathroom that's already in place. But under no circumstance can the school be unduly put under undue pressure or hardship for their decision or in the decision-making process. So this was a good bill, but you know what happened in this bill? The media got a hold of this bill and made it into something it was not. It was amazing to see this good, short, respectful, private modesty bill blown way out of proportion and made it into something it was not. So we continue to reason, and with the press, and when I say the press, I'm talking national press, did interviews with the New York Times, the San Diego Chronicle, did an interview with the BBC in London, England. I'll never do an interview with the BBC again in London, England. They were very antagonistic, let me tell you. And so the whole nation was watching what South Dakota would do. If the governor would have signed this, folks, we would have been the first in the nation to protect all of our students in a respectful manner. I want to spend a moment and just take you through our press release because I think this says it all. The day after the governor vetoed, we simply wrote, amidst the Super Tuesday drama, another drama was almost quietly sputtering to a conclusion. As folks across the country waited to see if Governor Dugard would sign the landmark HB 1008 into law, emotions have run pretty hot in South Dakota. The aim of this bill was as well-meaning and void of malice as it was accommodating for people on both sides of the issue. It generally sought to address what likely is going to be a prolonged debate in the not-so-distant future in our state. The question at hand is this: should transgender elementary and secondary public school students be allowed to shower and use the restroom with students of the opposite sex? The State House voted to mandate that instead, it would be incumbent on the schools to accommodate the transgender individual in a respectful and decent manner. The state Senate agreed. Unfortunately, Governor Dugard did not concur, vetoing the bill late in the day on Tuesday, March 1. We sincerely believe that the governor missed an opportunity to get out in front of this issue and help accommodate both sides in a peaceful and respectful manner. We appreciate the 78 legislators who stood on principle and voted in support of HB 1008. We are thankful to all those who called or emailed their legislators and the governor asking for support, and for all those on both sides of the debate who opt for civil discourse in the discussion of this issue. Do you remember the TV show I Love Lucy? On the TV show I Love Lucy, you would often hear Ricardo saying to Lucy these words, "Lucy, you got some splaining to do." And we feel like our governor has some splaining to do as it comes to a 1008 and why he exactly vetoed 1008. Folks, I want to thank those of you that emailed the governor and that called the governor's office. I want you to know that they were overwhelmed by your calls and your emails. I want you to know that someone within inside the governor's office shared with us over 5,000 phone calls had come in, and that was about a week and a half, 2 weeks before the veto. So phone calls were coming in. They put 3 staff on answering the phone calls coming into the office, predominantly on this bill. And so it's not as though they did not hear from South Dakota moms, dads, and grandparents. They certainly did hear from you. Now, did they hear from our opponents, those that opposed this bill? Yes, predominantly from outside the state. The group MoveOn.org put out the word equality, group put out the word nationwide. So they heard predominantly from them. We were told that the out-of-state phone calls and emails were being set off to the side and were not being considered and weighed in on this matter. And for that, I'm very grateful. I'm grateful that outside influence did not come in, at least we hope, and influence the governor's decision on this. Outside influence like Bruce Jenner, who called the governor and encouraged the governor to veto this bill. We don't believe, we have no reason to believe that the governor listened to outside influence, but rather his decision, we believe, is unfortunate. And so we're going to continue this discussion. We're moving this discussion along. The stakeholders will meet with the governor's office shortly. The stakeholders will meet and begin to discuss. In fact, on veto override day, we're going to meet for the very first time and discuss our path forward. You know why? Because this issue is not going to go away. And one of the things the governor wrote in his message as to why he vetoed was that it's not a problem in South Dakota. Well, I'll tell you what, we were trying to get out in front of this problem here in the state of South Dakota, to be reasonable and decent about an answer, a solution that the rest of the nation could follow. And so the battle continues. This fight for that which is right continues. And we hope to bring back to the legislature next year a form of, maybe not the exact bill, but a form of HB 1008. And once again endeavor to protect 100% of our students in our public school program. So it's a very narrow bill and narrow in its scope. Now, I would be amiss if I did not tell you that the phone calls coming into the office of the FHA and the emails and the texts we're getting are also calling for a statewide initiative on this matter. Take it directly to the people of South Dakota. And folks, that option is on the table. And so you may be hearing of that option. Personally, I'd like to see this legislator take another shot at it, and I'd like to see the governor's questions answered as we move into 2017. But pray for us as we continue to dialogue with the governor's office, with our attorney general's office, and with our stakeholders, and we'll see where this issue goes soon and very soon. I'd like to share with you concerning 1107. Norman.
So HB 1107, and this is what we call GENDA, GNDA, Government Non-Discrimination Act. And what this bill did, or was seeking to do, is tell the state that it cannot come down with a heavy hand on you because of your beliefs on marriage, gender, and sexuality. For example, you've seen the bakers and the florists that are refusing service. You have a Christian business or a Christian adoption agency, and a gay couple comes to you and says, we'd like to adopt. And you say, because of my Christian belief, I can't do that. There's a place down the road, would you please go there instead? They say, okay, and they leave. They could still sue you. Anybody can sue anybody. But the state could not come to you and say, no, you can't do that. We're going to pull your accreditation or your license. Or they can't come to a college and say, no, we don't like your views on marriage. We're going to pull your accreditation or your licensure. And so this simply told the state that it cannot come down with a heavy hand on you simply because of your belief on marriage, gender, sexuality, etc. And it was pretty narrow. It didn't give you a license to discriminate. You couldn't go out and beat somebody up because of your beliefs on marriage. No, you can't do that. It simply required that the government wouldn't have come down on you with a heavy hand. This bill made it through the House pretty strong, and then was tabled on the Senate side. There was a lot of concerned parties, and basically we're going to look at it over the summer, probably bring it back, tweak it if we have to, but primarily talk to the people that were concerned. Because there was a lot of people out there concerned that we wanted a license to discriminate, and we don't. And so one of the big goals over the summer will be to talk to all the concerned parties, explain to them what we're looking for, and if we need to tweak the bill, we'll tweak the bill. Because we don't want a license to discriminate, we just want to protect our religious beliefs and our ability to exercise those beliefs. So it was tabled. Over the summer, we're going to look at it again, tweak it if we have to, and definitely be talking to all the concerned parties.
I don't know if, Jacqueline, if you would agree with this, or Bruce, if you would, but I have heard it said that a good bill oftentimes takes up to 3 years, a 3-year run in a bill. And so this is our first year on both of these bills. The problem with the 3-year run, folks, at a good bill is I just really want it on the first year. You know, let's just get this done. It's good and great and right and proper. So, but we're steady at the helm. If there's one word for Norm and I, it would be the word we're perseverant. And so we'll be back with another bill. And I want to talk about 1112. 1112 is the bill that many of you have been involved with. It deals with the South Dakota Activities Association and the High School Activities Association and their transgender bill. Folks, last year this bill made it through the House in strong fashion and back over to the Senate where we ran into problems with it. In fact, the House sent it back over there not once but twice last year. So 1112 simply says to the South Dakota Activities Association, hey, you know that activities policy for transgender that you put into place, not good. It's not South Dakota valued. We're going to void it, and we're going to ask you to go back to the drawing table and come back to the legislature with some proper language, some South Dakota valued language. And so this was a good bill, made it through the House in, as you can see, in a strong fashion. Made it through the House and ran into trouble on the Senate side once again. And that's not unusual to run into some problems on the Senate side, with all due respect to you, Senator Rappaport. But anyway, this bill, second year, we made an attempt at this, and so next year, third year, with a charm. The bottom line is this. We certainly hope and pray that Governor does the right thing and signs the rest of our bills into law. They're sitting on his desk, and he has 5 days after they've been presented to him on his desk to sign. So wherever you see it, read in the booklet, this is pending. You'll know that he's still looking at it and making a decision on it. Except 72, it says it's pending. It has been signed into law, so you can make a note on 72. While we were at the Capitol, we had 5 of those involved in the Family Heritage Alliance, either on the board or staff or advisory council, made their way to D.C. for CPAC, along with John Dennis on staff and Bob Fisher on our advisory council, Craig Eriks on our board, and Ed Randazzo on staff. So those 5 gentlemen, along with the Goodwins, made their way to D.C. and during the CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, and came back with some great ideas, and appreciated them being there on the ground, boots on the ground. They made their way over and spent some time with all 3 of our delegates, in Representative Kristi Noem, Senator Rounds, and Senator Thune. And so on behalf of all of you, they greeted them on behalf of the Family Heritage Alliance and our family here in the state of South Dakota. But let's talk a moment about our interns. Many of you know that these are our 5 interns for the Family Heritage Alliance for 2016. These are young people that have come alongside of us and just ask us to shadow us, to groom us, and so we're grateful for them. But I'd like to turn it over to Norman to talk about our Capitol interns this year.
So what you saw on the previous slide was the interns that have committed to stick around, to help, to show up at events, things like that. What you see on this slide is one step before that. Most of our internships start with a student coming to the Capitol and shadowing Dale and I for a week. They basically try to keep up and tag along and get to drink from a fire hose. Every year we take 2, usually 3, the first couple weeks of session when it's not super busy, and they shadow us, they learn the ropes, they drink from a fire hose, etc. And then afterwards, here soon, Joseph Shively and Leah Woods will both get an email seeing if they want to come on the rest of the year and help with luncheons, help with events, things like that. And then our internship program, we're always growing. We're always looking for more people to shadow, more people to help. And I think if we go to the slide after here, you can see Leah and Joseph in the picture there. I mean, they're showing up. That was only a couple weeks after they shadowed. Both of them were constantly emailing me and texting me. They wanted to know where certain bills were. They were engaged. And so it's not like the students that come and shadow us go home and we never hear from them again.
They were here for the summit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what the picture was for the summit a couple weeks after. And so usually when the interns come, they get the fever, they want to be involved. They see the culture that we're in and they want to help. They see goals and they want to reach them. And so that's a little bit about our internship program. Most people in the picture there are previous interns, and Anne on the bottom left, I'm guessing will be future intern. But once they come and shadow us for a little while, they kind of catch the fever and see the impact we're making, and they want to continue being involved.
I think all of you would agree that that's a pretty important part of the Family Heritage Alliance, and that's to mentor our young people and encourage them as we move along. I want to share with you that there are 3 bills. If you look on your page with the big red X, there are 3 bills that we opposed during this session this year, and 2 of those bills were defeated. We're grateful, and 1 of them did pass. So let's take a look at them real quickly. The Video Lottery Expansion Bill. Folks, the Video Lottery Commission every year come back and with some kind of an expansion. This year was phenomenal in that they were looking to expand video lottery not on one level, but on 5 different levels. Now, when the committee came around, they immediately sent an amendment down that removed one of the levels, one of the issues, but that wasn't good enough, folks. It still was a bad bill for South Dakota. And so we gave testimony opposing, we worked the committee hard, began to work the floor, but I'm very, very grateful that in South Dakota, what we're saying from the Family Heritage Alliance, when it comes to video lottery, enough is enough. The secondary negative effects of this stream of revenue is wrong on so many levels. South Dakota, we can do better. Better, much, much better. And so the committee felt the very same thing. As you can see, 9-4 killed that bill in committee, and we're grateful for that.
And next we have HB 1067. And what 1067 dealt with is, many of you remember a little while ago we passed Initiated Measure 17. Well, what 1067 does is it repealed what IM 17 does. Maybe not completely, but it definitely took a big chunk away from it. IM 17 was a stab at Obamacare and trying to lessen some of that. 1067 tried to put back in what IM 17 the voters passed. So 1067 died in the first committee. Usually this committee met in a real small committee room, but I think they knew this was going to be a big enough debate. They went to the biggest committee room after session that afternoon, and as you can see, it failed 10-3. Basically, the committee realized that we didn't want to repeal what the voters did in IM 17.
And it's really interesting, one of the lead opponents to this bill was Dr. Eckridge. Some of you know that name from Rapid City, and he was extremely informed on this bill and brought some great education to light on why this is a bad bill. And so Dr. Eckridge, he caught the bug, and it's my understanding he's going to run for District 33 for the House seat, along with Taffy Howard. Taffy, will you stand? Taffy Howard's a candidate in the House. Will you please welcome her to this? So the last bill that we opposed was SB 102, and unfortunately it passed. It passed the House, it passed the Senate. It was an alcohol for sale on our college campuses. Folks, we just see alcohol as a huge problem already. And when it comes to our state campus, this was not a bill that puts the sale of alcohol on private colleges in South Dakota, just on the state colleges in South Dakota. So it expands the sales, and we believe it's the camel's nose under the tent. It's the crack, the foot in the door to allow more alcohol sales on the campus. And we simply said, no, let's stop right here. And but unfortunately, we were disagreed with, and it passed. All right. Okay, I'd like to share with you. I pulled this off of Facebook the other day, and this is our Abraham Lincoln's quote: "America will never be destroyed from outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves." Isn't that right? What great wisdom from Abraham Lincoln moving forward. I want you to know that it was a real honor to serve as a lobbyist this year again. This was my 8th year as a lobbyist at the Capitol, my 6th year as a lobbyist with the Family Heritage Alliance. It was actually Norman's 6th year at the Capitol, 5th year at the Capitol. 2 years shadowed me, and the last 3 years now he's been a registered lobbyist with the FHA. This young man serves the FHA and your interests with a great deal of expertise and dignity. And I tell you, I could not have done what I did at the Capitol. We could not have seen the successes that we've seen if it was not for this young man at your side, boots on the ground at the state Capitol. So as he makes his way back to his seat, just give a warm thank you.